because this is actually a little bit unusual. A few of my Japanese style Zen teacher friends do this, but most of them don't, and some of them are quite shocked that, what, you have students give Dharma talks? So sangha means help each other. And help each other doesn't depend on rank, and it doesn't depend on accomplishment. It depends on opportunity, having an opportunity to help each other. So Dharma talk, giving a Dharma talk, means helping each other, and means being given an opportunity to help each other. Now, we don't let just anybody give a Dharma talk. We do draw the line, and the line is that you should have substantial practice experience. And because the way we help each other in the Dharma can only come from our practice. I'm hitting the wrong thing. It can only come from our practice, from having a strong center, an open heart, a clear mind. And so our help of each other comes from our practice, and it's our practice being made manifest. So there's a list of about a dozen people who give Dharma talks in our Zen Center. And we could probably expand the list a little bit, but I just say if you've had 10 precepts, then you can give Dharma talks. That's the way I draw the line, so I don't have to say, oh, I like Steve, but I don't like Max, or I like Max, but I don't like Steve. It's just very simple, formal. 10 precepts, you can give a Dharma talk. Okay, that's how we do it. And this helping each other is really important. Without this, our practice is only about me. Am I peaceful? Am I happy? That kind of thing. But this practice is for this world. And so the Dharma talk makes us realize, if we're one of those people giving Dharma talks, we realize, oh, I'm responsible for this world. I'm responsible for helping each other. So the Dharma talk is very important in that way. And it's also important because, as Ting and I both know, I used to be, and she is, a math professor, students learn from each other. You break them up into small groups and they talk to each other, and they get something they'd never get if, the professor from on high was talking to them. So that's one aspect of just an opportunity to help each other. And then there's this very interesting thing. We're going to be having 4 people receive teacher authorization. And I'm not allowed to tell you who. Those people who are in their home sanghas will find out a week or 2 before, but basically it's a secret. So there are 4 people in the North American Quantum School of Zen who are going to be made fully authorized teachers. We call that Inca, and the title is Jito Popsanim. And it's like associate professor and full professor. So an associate professor gets to do everything a full professor can do, except they cannot pick full professors. So a Zen master and a Jito Popsanim, the only difference is that Zen masters get to decide who becomes a Zen master. That's the only difference, So functionally they're the same. So we're going to have these 4 new fully authorized teachers. And there's going to be 2 ceremonies, because 4 is too many. The ceremony would last like 4 hours. Nobody wants to be on Zoom for 4 hours listening to people talk. So 2 people will be on December 5th, 3 o'clock Central Time. 2 people will be on December 12th. No, I'm sorry, it's the Sunday, December 13th, Sunday, December 13th, 3 o'clock Central Time. So, and I encourage everybody here to go, because it's going to be really cool. They get challenged, and they get, people challenge them with questions and they have to respond, and it's really cool. And in person, it's really great because there's a lot of laughter and stuff, but on Zoom, everyone's going to be muted, and it's going to be kind of unfortunate that way. But still, it'll be really cool, and I encourage people to go. But there's this interesting thing, because these 4 people, they were approved for Inca before this. They're walking among us, and we don't know who they are. Well, actually, I do, but you don't. And so it's like, what is the difference? These people were approved for Inca months ago. They were supposed to get it in April. But, COVID happened. And so It's the thing about in the monastery where the people are fighting and fighting and fighting. So then the great abbot from the next monastery ever comes over and says to them, is a Catholic story, says to them, he doesn't try to like work it out or anything. He just says to them, Jesus is among you. One of you is as great as Jesus, but I won't tell you who. And all of a sudden they start really being nice to each other because you don't know who Jesus is. It's not you, but you don't know. So this mind, that you don't know, right now it's really cool because nobody in the quantum school of Zen, except maybe about 10 or 15 people, know who these four people are. And so we can look at each other and we can say, oh, is it you? Is it you? Is it you? You hear, and this mind, we should always have this mind. You always have this mind. Oh yeah, this is Buddha. This is Buddha. This is Buddha in front of me. So that's what I wanted to say. And now I'll ask if there are any questions.
I have a question.
Yes.
Um, how did like who or how did the precepts come about, and just the general like list of things that are supposedly good for people to, or like teachers, people who follow like that sort of thing? How did that come about, and who decided what it was who that was going to get on that list?
That's a great question. So a long time ago when Buddha started teaching and he made this monastic sangha, because that's what it was. You made sort of monastic sangha, a group of people who were dedicated to practice. That's all they did, and that's how you propagated the practice, was through these people who were dedicated monastics. And you all know it took a while for Buddha to agree that women could do it. He said that, well, if I make women monastics, then everything goes will instead of lasting 1,000 years, will only last 500 years. But hey, it's over 2,500 years later, and we have women monastics, and there's no problem. But anyway, so how did the precepts arrive? So the precepts arose. The original precepts, the like hundreds and hundreds of monks' precepts that arose, they arose because monks did really bad things. And the minute a monk did a bad thing, you had to write it down as a precept. Don't do this. I think there's something like having sexual relationships with a skull or something. There's some really weird in the monastic precepts. There's some really, really weird precepts of, because basically some monk or nun went out and did something that was really a problematic. And so they wrote, oh, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. So that's the original precepts. They sort of came from that. But the 5 precepts, and we're going to have a precept ceremony, a nationwide precept ceremony on Zoom on December 12th, which at least 6 people in the Sangha are taking. So those 5 precepts: not to kill, not to steal, not to lie, not to do bad things out of lust, not to take intoxicants to induce heedlessness. Those 5, they're like really good rules for living. And I don't really know historically when they arose or how they arose, but they're very, very old. They go, clearly they go way back in China. They might even come from India. I'm not sure. But what that is it's like if you're going to make a commitment to practice, again, this commitment is not just for yourself. So there's a big ethical component in practice. In fact, in traditional Buddhism, you don't start by meditation. You start by adhering to the precepts, living an ethical life. And when you've done that for a while, then you're allowed to meditate. Because it's so easy in meditation to kind of use it to boost up your ego. I'm so special, I meditate. Oh, wow. I've had all these wonderful experiences from meditation and you haven't. Ho, 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 ho. That kind of thing. So this ethical component is very important. And the 5 precepts, and then there are another 5 precepts that we take, which I can never remember all of them, but one of them is basically not to say things about how great you are. That's one of my favorites. and not to slander the Buddha and the Dharma and the Sangha and that kind of stuff. And then there's another 6 precepts you can take, and then there's another 48 precepts for a total of 64 for the maximum lay precepts. And then if you're a monk or a nun, there are many, many more precepts. You take hundreds of precepts. So, but these precepts are all pointing in a direction, and that direction is my practice is not about me, not for me, for you. You know. So that's what the precepts are about, and the exact historical. When did the 10 precepts come about? When did the 5 precepts come about? The extra 6, the total of 64 lay precepts is found in something called the Brahmanet Sutra. Gives a version of it, which is not exactly the version we use, but it's close. So we know that the 64 lay precepts go back a long ways, but I don't know the exact time. But yeah, the very, very early Buddhist precepts were like somebody did something really bad, and Buddha said, let's do something else. So thank you for your questions, and hopefully that'll encourage people to think about precepts. Oh, and then there's a comment from a certain other Zen master present who is not a monk. Don't Zen masters confer Inca not only make Zen masters? Well, yes, Zen masters do confer Inca. That is, if you're getting this first authorization, you need a Zen master as a sponsor. But you have people who have Inca and are not Zen masters also on the committee. So people, what we call Jito Pope Synonyms, people with Inca who are not Zen masters are part of the Inca process, but they're not part of the Zen master process. So thank you for your correction. Um, are there any other questions?
Uh, can I ask just a simple follow-up question?
Sure.
Um, yesterday, for the first time, I read the temple rules,
Ah,
and
wonderful.
the temple rules are there's some that are I think or I may understand them. Don't use somebody else's clothes or shoes, somebody else's coat. But then the other ones about right speech and correct action and the way you eat, are those only for an environment in a monastery or when you're on a 30-day retreat? Or is that something we can bring also into our life? Like don't voice your opinion openly. Don't speak too much. I'm paraphrasing, but the
Yeah.
question is, are those temple rules written just for a temple environment, or is that something we can bring into our life?
So I should first explain to everyone. So if you, back in the before time, when we were not doing retreats over Zoom, every time we did a retreat, we would begin by reading these temple rules. And these temple rules legendarily trace back to the great Tang Dynasty master Pai Chang. Um, and over the his rules kind of disappeared, and then they reappeared at various times, and then the version we use is a slight edit of the great 19th 20th century Korean Zen master Kyung Ho. And they range from the sublime to the mundane. Like one of them is do not take other people's shoes and coats, which is about in a monastery everyone wears shoes that look exactly the same, everyone wears clothes that look exactly the same. So you have this thing of all these gray padded jackets and all these white plastic shoes, which is what they wear now. I don't know what they wore before, some kind of sandals, I guess. And how do you know which is yours? So don't take the wrong person's. So that seems very mundane, but actually that's one of my favorites. Because yeah, we're always going around metaphorically taking other people's shoes and coats. And then you have these things, if you break the wall of self, you become infinite in time and space. So with these cosmic temple rules, if you break the wall of self, you become infinite in time and space. And we go, whoa! I want to break the wall of self and become infinite in time and space. And we imagine, some kind of shimmering creature, like out of the early, Star Trek. The really weird, like cheesy, like special effects. Where some shimmering creature arises and sort of blends in with, that kind of thing. But that's not what that means, actually. It's very similar to do not take other people's shoes and coats. The basic meaning is not that different. And we have these wonderful poems, these really wonderful poems in there, and quotations. Like there's a quote from the opening of the Shin Ming. So there's all this wonderful stuff in there, and we used to read it all the time. And you're sitting there and you're about to start a retreat, and it just kind of sinks into you. Whoa, this is really serious. You know, what I'm about to do, it's really important. And again, not just for me. So that's so there's this sort of effect of reading the temple rules that's just wonderful. And we might decide to start doing it on retreats, but the way we would do it is you'd pass one person would read like 4 or 5 lines, the next person 4 or 5 lines, you'd go round and round until you were done. And it's hard to do on Zoom. If one person read it, everyone would go to sleep. But since everyone's taking turns, it really hits you. So I don't know, we'll try to figure out how to bring the temple rules back. But to answer your real question was about, is this just for monks and nuns? And the answer is no, it's about community. So at the temple rules, they're really about two things. Wake up, help this world. There's a lot in there to urge you to wake up. Just urge you, time will not wait for you, that kind of stuff. Just urges you to wake up right now. No excuses. Right now, wake up. But there's also, as you said, this emphasis on community. Do not take others' shoes and coats. If you're alone on a mountaintop, you don't have to worry about taking other people's shoes and coats. But here we all are. We're all together. And so, yeah, it's about community. And in fact, Kyung Ho had a community that was not just monastics, but also included lay people. Very much like our contemporary Zen teachers, especially in the early days, or in the 1980s, in Quantum School of Zen, there were a fair number of monks and nuns, and especially Providence Zen Center and Cambridge Zen Center. They were residential Zen centers, and they had monks and nuns there. Also, a Dharma Zen Center in LA. There were, like, you'd have 3 or 4 or 5 monks and nuns there, and but mostly lay people. Well, Kyung Ho's communities, the majority was monks and nuns, but you also had lay people. So it was not just about monastics, it was about living in community. Wake up, help this world. So that's what the temple rules are pointing to. And they do it just wonderfully. And yes, some of them, like, do not say bad things about the temple. And you think, well, what if, there's a horrible person, in the temple who's going around like killing people? Am I allowed to say there's a horrible person? So that is still about harmony. And, you always have to know when to hold them and know when to fold them, right? And know when to hold, know when to let go. And but it's about harmony and community and the direction of our practice. That's and wake up. This exhortation to wake up, wake up, wake up. That's the temple rules, and you can find them on the Quantum School of Zen website. Just do their web page is so complicated it's hard to navigate. Just go Temple Rules Quantum School of Zen. It'll pop up, and I encourage people to read them because they are really amazing. They're just absolutely amazing. Every time we do a retreat and there's the teacher is supposed to give a little inspirational talk, and we read the temple rules first, and some line will hit me that had not hit me before. And I don't know how many, dozens and dozens of retreats I've given or sat and been part of. And there's always something will hit me. So yeah, I encourage people to Google Temple Rules, Quantum School of Zen, and read them because they're wonderful. Thank you for asking me about them. They're one of the things I miss. You have another question, Max?
No, just a comment. I sat with Rebecca yesterday
Uh-huh.
at her retreat, and you can talk to her. She actually managed it very nice. She had it on the screen,
Okay.
and she said everybody read 1 or 2 paragraphs, and then she'd name the next person.
Oh, great.
And it actually ran smoothly.
Okay, thank you, Max.
Yeah.
Next time we have a retreat next week, we'll do it. Okay, it's a deal. Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Hi, Judy. I've got a question.
Uh-huh.
Hi. What advice would you give somebody who has taken precepts, but for whatever reason has broken those precepts, but has decided that they would now like to follow those precepts earnestly.
Well, first of all, I can't see you. You might want to show your.
So it's Andy.
I know, I can tell from your voice, but oh, you're
Probably from my lockdown hair. That's probably a mercy, in all honesty.
dark. It's not like your screen is like.
It's very dark here in
Yeah,
England. It's yeah.
yeah. So
Can you see me now?
there's a wonderful Korean saying. Oh, actually, it's East Asian, Northeast Asia. 7 times fall down, 8 times get up. And as a mathematician, this used to drive me crazy. But actually, that grammar was bad. As a mathematician, I used to be driven crazy by this, because if you fall down 7 times, you get up 7 times, right? And then
Right.
some people say, well, you were up before you fell down, but still. But the notion that the effort of getting up overwhelms the problem of falling down. So
Okay.
7 times fall down, 8 times. You broke a precept, don't break it again. Very simple. You broke another one, don't break it again. You broke the same one, stop breaking that damn precept. It's really, really simple. It's nothing complicated. And especially the first 5 precepts, they're just common sense. They have nothing to do with Buddhism. I mean, there's no group of people that one can take seriously who would say, yeah, well, go ahead and lie to people. I mean, politically, certain political pundits or people who advise people might say, oh, yeah, you can go lie. But face it, no decent person would say, yeah, go lie, go kill people. Yeah, that's great. I mean, nobody does that. Go do bad things because you're horny. Nobody does that. It's like these are all like really practical. They have nothing to do with Buddhism. They're just totally practical. And so everybody, whether you're, whatever religion you practice or no religion you practice, it doesn't matter. It's just really simple. 7 times fall down, 8 times get up. Yeah, you got drunk and you did something bad because you were drunk. Stop being drunk. And I understand that sometimes, alcoholism is a disease and it's very hard to get through. Get help. Whatever it is. Stop lying. Stop killing. Just stop all that stuff. Don't steal. Real simple. You stole something, don't steal again. And there's something behind all of those precepts. And behind all of those precepts is the realization that we are not separate from anyone else.
Mm.
So if you see the full humanity of the person you're about to steal from, the person you're about to hurt, the person you're about to lie to, whatever it is, if you see their full humanity and you realize that they are not even a separate being from you, that you are intimately, intimately, intimately connected, then you will find yourself naturally obeying the precepts, following the precepts, naturally. And sometimes, the precepts come into conflict with each other. So there's a story of the farmers tilling the field and a rabbit pops by. And then the hunter comes chasing the rabbit. And the rabbit went this way. And the hunter says, where's the rabbit? Where's the rabbit? I always think of Elmer Fudd. Where's the rabbit? So the hunter's going to kill this rabbit, And the farmer goes, they went that way. Because the farmer doesn't want the rabbit killed. So they told a lie. But it was for the rabbit. But then there's a twist to this, where the hunter comes by, where's the rabbit, where's the rabbit? And the farmer knows that this hunter has all these starving children at home, and they're desperate for food. And he says, the rabbit went that way, so that the children can eat. But Stan was telling this story once in Arkansas, and this woman raised her hand in the back of the room. She said, I would have just told that hunter, bring your family over and I'll give you some soup. Yeah. So that mind, you have that mind. That's the mind. If you have that mind, then you will never break a precept. Even when it looks like you've broken a precept, you will not have broken a precept, because the real precept is help this world. Really help this world, not, out of a delusion of what's helpful, but really help this world. Really understand we are not separate. You're not over there and I'm not over here. We are intimately linked. And no matter who you are every bit as human as I am. And we all have Buddha nature, and not just human beings. We all have Buddha nature, including Todd's kid. Hi, Carl. Including Todd's kid over there. Yeah, so just understand that. And then the precepts are no problem. So thank you for your question. And
Thank you.
it's time to stop. So I will stop recording.